Eat me.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Blissful Brownies. My name is Ben Waters.
And I am Karen Bellino. Today we are making brookies. It is a combination of cookies and brownies with a chocolate layer on the bottom and a brownie layer on the top. Ingredients.
For the cookie layer, you will need half a cup of butter, half a cup of light brown sugar, 1/4 of a cup of white sugar, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 egg, 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, half of a teaspoon of salt, half of a teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips.
For the brownie layer, you will need 1 cup of white sugar, half a cup of butter melted, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 2 large eggs, white eggs, 1/3 cup of cocoa powder, half a cup of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Let the baking commence. Baking!
First, beat softened butter, light brown sugar, 1/4 cup white sugar, half a cup teaspoon vanilla extract together in a large bowl until it becomes creamy. However, we screwed up, so add 1 egg and beat until light and creamy, so about 2 minutes. Whisk 1 1/4 cups flour, half a teaspoon of salt, and baking soda together in a separate bowl, and gradually stir the new flour mixture into the butter mixture until the dough is combined. Then stir the chocolate chips into the dough gradually. Once done, spread the dough onto the bottom of a greased 9 by 13 inch baking dish to cover completely.
Stir 1 cup of white sugar, half a cup of melted butter, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract to cut together in a bowl and mix. Add 2 eggs and beat well. Mix cocoa powder into butter mixture until well combined. Stir half a cup of flour, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/8 teaspoon of salt into the cocoa mixture until batter is combined. Pour brownie batter over cookie dough and spread to cover completely.
Preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, or 175 degrees Celsius. Place the cookie brownie mixture in the oven and bake for around 20 to 25 minutes.
Science! Baking soda, also known as sodium bicarbonate, releases CO2 when heated. When CO2 is released, sodium carbonate is produced, which is strongly alkaline and gives the baked product a bitter, soapy taste and a yellow color.
Baking powder is a mix of carbonate or bicarbonate with a weak acid. It's used to increase the volume of baked goods and lighten their texture. It releases carbon dioxide through a reaction causing bubbles and leavening the mixture. It's also sometimes used as a yeast substitute.
Beaten egg white helps retain gas bubbles and leaven a baked good. A normal egg acts as a binder to prevent it from being all liquidy. The egg reacts with the other ingredients, causing a gas bubble to rise. The liquid element of eggs also gives the baked goods more richness.
Salt adds strength and support to the brownie/cookie layer. It also strengthens soft fat and sugar mixtures.
Flour is used to keep all of the ingredients together to make them a batter consistency to keep the baked goods solid. Flour is made largely from starch and protein. When it mixes with water and makes dough, the gluten develops into a thick elastic mass. When put in the oven or heated, puffs up to provide structure to your baked goods.
White sugar is used in baked goods and many other food and drinks due to the glucose inside of it. White sugar is common for sweetening food items. It also binds all the ingredients together to give it a much better texture.
Brown sugar is used to create a more moist and chewier cookie. Brown sugar contains molasses, which is slightly acidic. Molasses add moisture, which results in a chewier protein.
Butter is made by churning fresh or fermented cream to separate the butterfat from the buttermilk. It is fermented and the bacteria go into it. It's very commonly used in baking, usually to make the end product chewier or to give it a more pleasant taste.
Vanilla extract comes from the vanilla seed pod from Mexico. The vanilla extract flavor comes from vanillin, a dried seed pod, despite the pod only being about 2% vanillin by weight. Vanilla extract is commonly used for making baked goods more flavorful and tasting less flat.
Cocoa powder comes from cocoa beans, commonly found in South America and mass harvested due to the popularity of chocolate around the world. Cocoa powder is commonly used in baking for giving things a rich chocolatey taste.
Chocolate chips provide small pockets of chocolate. Large chunks of chocolate will create layering in the cookie, resulting in a flakier cookie with large pockets of melted chocolate. Smaller chocolate chips will disperse throughout the dough, giving a nice chocolate chip flavor throughout the cookie. Now here's a word from our sponsors.
Are you tired of baking flat cakes that are gross with no substance whatsoever? Well, now there's a solution. Eggs are the new product from Pollo Co. that make life so much easier. Eggs are built with a high-tech structure that release gas bubbles and air bubbles into the pastry while it's baking, causing it to be light and fluffy. It's also a great toy for the little tykes.
Baked goods need a lift? Get eggs.
Side effects may include salmonella, rashes, more rashes, not knowing the capital of Wyoming, vomiting, even more rashes, and death.
Welcome back to Blissful Brownies. Where we last left off, we began baking the brookies and we talked all about the science behind it.
After about 20 to 25 minutes of baking, use oven gloves to carefully remove the brownies out of the oven. Leave it out for about an hour until the toothpick inserted comes out dry. It's pretty good. Yeah, I think it's mostly good. But it turned out pretty well, so that's great.
Unfortunately, we screwed up. At first, the after results looked pretty decent until you cut it open. The cookie layer was covered with melted chocolate chips. This resulted in some of the ingredients being undercooked, like raw eggs. To improve the recipe, we decided to add some of our own modifications. Modified. I decided to change the cookie layer butter into melted butter. Use 2/3 cups of chocolate chips instead of 1 cup. Use 2/3 cups of white sugar instead of 1 cup for the brownie layer. Use 2/3 cups of melted butter instead of half a cup in the brownies. And use 1/2 cup of cocoa powder instead of 1/3 cup. The butter change resulted in a more tender brownie. When being baked in the oven, the air is incorporated into the butter, which helps leaven the brownie cookies and created a denser cookie. With less chocolate chips, the result was a stronger layer of cookies with soft chocolate chips within. Less sugar resulted in a less sweetness and more tenderness that it either lacked structure to hold its shape or it was shapely but too soft. In the end result, there wasn't enough dissolved sugars to recrystallize, resulting in a softer crust. The increase in cocoa powder resulted in a darker look with much more chocolate taste to it.
I made quite a few less changes than Kyron, which seems to have gone pretty well. I first slightly increased the vanilla extract so that the flavor would be a bit more prominent. I also added a little more baking soda, which didn't turn out as well due to it turning the brownies very dry and crumbly due to baking soda's tendency to dry baked goods out with CO2. The most substantial change I made was extending the baking time from 23 minutes to 32 minutes, which made the brownies much more solid and prevented the weird lava cake consistency of our first batch. I would personally say that my changes benefited the brownies the most.
Closing. Thank you for enjoying our first broadcast of Blissful Brownies.
See you next week when we make our world famous tartar sauce brownie, made of so much real tartar sauce that you can't taste the brownie.